So I'm not going to answer the question, how does losing the NBA Finals affect Chris Paul's legacy? When we look at a guy like Chris Paul, who's going to go to the Hall of Fame, he's had a 16-year career. He's an 11-time All-Star. 4 times he's made first-team All-NBA. 7 times he's made first-team All-NBA defense. 6 times he's led the NBA in steals. 4 times he's led the NBA in assists. And I think that Chris Paul's legacy is that wherever he goes, he wins at a high level, despite sometimes not always having the best supporting cast. He's won at a high level in New Orleans. He's won at a high level with the Clippers. Oklahoma City, he led them to the playoffs. He got to a conference finals with James Harden, the Houston Rockets. And recently, he just was a part of a Phoenix Suns team that went to the NBA Finals and ultimately lost to the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, here's the thing. The NBA Finals performance that Chris Paul put together did not change my viewpoint on Chris Paul all that much. It really did not change my opinion all that much. It really didn't. Because here's the thing. The NBA Finals basically confirmed all I already knew about Chris Paul. It confirmed every single thing and every single little detail about Chris Paul's legacy that I already knew, okay? I learned nothing new about Chris Paul. Heading into the finals, I did not consider Chris Paul to be an all-time great player. I did not consider him to be a top 5 point guard of all time. And when I say Chris Paul's not an all-time great player, I'm not saying that he's not a great player, because he is. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. But I think there's a difference between a Hall of Fame level player and an all-star level player and a guy that's an all-time great NBA player. When I say you're an all-time great NBA player, what I mean is there are levels to greatness. There's your all-stars, Hall of Famers, all-time greats, and guys in the GOAT conversation. Chris Paul has done nothing to belong in the inner sanctum of players that we're going to remember forever. Chris Paul's not an all-time great player. Guys like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Larry Bird, Jerry West, Kevin Durant, even Dirk Nowitzki, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, to me, are all-time great players. And again, I don't just feel this way in the NBA. I feel this way about other sports. I look at a guy like Eli Manning when it comes to the NFL. I think Eli Manning had a fantastic career, but I don't consider Eli Manning to be an all-time great player. Okay, I think he had a very good career, but not quite an all-time great, despite even winning championships, because he was just too inconsistent of a player. And see, here's the thing about Chris Paul. Chris Paul never consistently dominated the NBA like his fellow peers did. In order to be an all-time great player, you need to win championships, or at least get to multiple championship games, meaning the NBA Finals. And I also kind of want you to lead the league in scoring, maybe win an NBA MVP. You know, the thing about Dirk Nowitzki is this. I consider Dirk Nowitzki an all-time great player because he's won a championship, he's won a league MVP, and he's in the 30,000 point club. That's extremely hard to do. You look at LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Giannis, James Harden. All those guys at some point have been in the conversation for best player in basketball, best player in the world. Chris Paul was never consistently in the conversation for best player in the world or best player in basketball. He just hasn't been in that conversation. And if you thought he is or thought he has been in that conversation, you're overrating Chris Paul. Okay? Even Allen Iverson dominated the NBA for about a 5 to 7 year stretch where he won multiple scoring titles, an NBA MVP, and he even led his team to an NBA Finals, just like Chris Paul. The only difference is he's put up way better numbers and dominated the sport in ways Chris Paul never has. Okay? And Chris Paul in the NBA Finals, he was solid. He averaged 22 points per game, had 8 assists per game, and shot over 50% from the field. But it wasn't good enough because the thing is, the Phoenix Suns needed Chris Paul to take it to another level. And he was not capable of doing that throughout the entire series. We saw a 31-point game in game number 1, but we didn't see that sustained greatness all throughout the finals. Whether you want to talk about Chris Paul in a good light or not, they had a 2-0 lead on the Milwaukee Bucks, and they lost 4 straight games. And Milwaukee, in my opinion, overwhelmed the Phoenix Suns, and Chris Paul, quite frankly, had no answer. He also had some very bad turnovers in game number 4. Like, he had 10 points in that game and shot 38% from the field. Like, he had some stinkers, okay? And this is the 4th time in Chris Paul's career he's blown a playoff series lead when he's been up 2-0 at some point. And people legitimately thought that Chris Paul should have been potentially in the MVP conversation this year. And I told those people, no, I think Devin Booker is the best player on the team, not Chris Paul. Chris Paul is excellent, but not quite in the MVP conversation. So I can't give Chris Paul a pass because I think that people are thinking that he's a top 5 point guard of all time, thinking he's in this inner sanctum of great players, and I just don't see it. You know, I'm not on that same boat. I'm not saying Chris Paul is not a great player because he is, but I just think people have overrated his legacy a little bit too much. And overall, I don't think the NBA Finals affected my view of Chris Paul because I never view Chris Paul in the light of being an all-time great player. If he were potentially to have won that championship, I would have considered, you know, but him being in my all-time great players list, but I cannot do that. So that's how I feel. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.